I was going to get a great job that I had always wanted, even if the Raiders were playing. You might have heard something that made you look twice a short time ago. Breaking news about our mustache detective, Tom Selleck. Don't worry though, this isn't an attack on Magnum P.I, a legend. Some small facts are about to come out that might surprise, shock, or give you a new kind of want to know what happened to one of your favorite actors. Stay tuned because you're about to see a different side of Tom Selleck that you never thought possible. The early years of Tom Selleck. Thomas William Selleck was born on January 29, 1945, in Detroit, Michigan. His mother was Martha Selleck and his father was Robert Sean Selleck. For money, Thomas's dad worked as an executive and an investor in real estate. Robert, his older brother, was named after his father. Martha, his younger sister, was also named after her mother. Daniel was their younger brother. From Tom's father's side of the family tree, he was mostly English because he was a straight descendant of David Selleck, an English colonist who moved to Massachusetts from Somerset, England in 1633. Tom was the 11th person in his family to be born in North America. It was 1948, and Tom's family thought it was time to move. He went to Grant High School in Sherman Oaks, California, which is a public high school in the Valley Glen area of Los Angeles, California. Tom went to Los Angeles Valley College after high school graduation in 1962, but he chose to live at home to save money. Tom seemed to be changing, but as he made his own choices, reality was already checking him out. In his life, Tom Selleck chose to transfer to the University of Southern California during his junior year to play for the USC Trojans men's basketball team. He was a pitcher and designated hitter for the team. It was important to him to be a part of the Trojan Knights and the Sigma Chi fraternity. A theater coach told Tom that he should try acting while he was majoring in business administration. Tom liked this idea because he was sure he could make it work. He followed the guidance and dropped out of college during his senior year. He then began studying acting with Milton Katsalis at the Beverly Hills Playhouse. Just as Tom was beginning to think about what he wanted to do, though, life had other ideas. At that time, the Vietnam War was getting worse, and more young men were signing up for the draft. As soon as Tom got his draft notice to join the Army, he chose to join the California Army National Guard and serve his country with honor and devotion for the next 6 years as a member of Company C, 1st Battalion, 160th Infantry. His bravery and leadership skills made it easy for him to rise through the ranks. Tom thought it was time to settle down after the war. As a man who made plans, his personal life was full of love and family. He married the beautiful model Jacqueline Ray, and they were married for more than 10 years before they split up in 1982. During their marriage, Tom took in Kevin Shepard, Jacqueline's son, who was born in 1966. This shows how kind Tom really was because he helped Kevin fall in love. It turned out that Kevin was the drummer for the American rock band Tonic. After his first marriage ended, Tom Selleck married Julie Joan Mark again in 1957. On December 16, 1988, their beautiful daughter Hannah was born. When Tom found peace near Thousand Oaks, West Village, California, he chose to move there with his family. It was written down as a 60-acre avocado ranch that Dean Martin used to own. A singer, actor, and comedian from the United States. In talks in 2012, he talked about how much he loved living on a ranch. So I like to go outside and work on the land, changing the roads, and cutting down trees. It's much more enjoyable for me to sweat outside than to sit on a stationary bike and look at my belly at the gym. He said, and I work for less than anyone I could hire to do it. Tom could be seen playing volleyball for his club as an outside hitter when he wasn't acting. Canoe with outriggers in Honolulu. Dennis Berg, one of Tom's teammates, talked about how committed he was to the team in an interview. He said that Tom was a great friend who was glad to be a part of such a skilled and experienced group. When his busy schedule allowed, Tom worked hard at practice and games. He was very patient with all of us, and we loved the big crowds that came to the national tournament games instead of the normal small group of players, friends, and spouses. He loved tennis, but it turned out that other people did too. As it turned out, his son became an All-American volleyball player at the University of Southern California, USC, in 1990. In addition to playing volleyball, Tom was also very involved in ice hockey. He went to Los Angeles Kings games all the time to cheer on his favorite players, but that wasn't the end of his sports love. Since he was a kid, his favorite baseball team has been the Detroit Tigers. When they had batting practice in 1986, Tom took part and hit a home run during his workout. After that, when he finally got the part in the movie Mr. Baseball, he asked the team if they could practice for 3 weeks in the spring of 1991. After Tigers manager Sparky Anderson saw how good he was, he even played extra innings in a practice game against the Cincinnati Reds as a pinch pitcher. His experience did have a big effect on his movie role as Mr. Baseball because he thought that his training had helped him a lot. He had stayed with the team and learned a lot from how focused they were, attending team meetings, and seeing how competitive players worked together. How did young Tom Selleck become the hottest TV star in the world? Early work by Tom Selleck. Selleck first showed up on TV in 1965 in The Dating Game when he was a senior in college. He then acted in another movie in 1967. It was then that people saw how stunning he was. Many people were interested in Tom because he was a handsome young man with curly hair. The Coca-Cola company knew at the time that they needed a better way to sell their products. The 6'4" Tom looked like he would be a great fit for their business. Because of this, they hired Tom and paid him for the ads and spots he was in for them. Soon after, he started having small parts in movies like Myra Breckinridge, Coma, and The 7 Minutes. Before and after these parts, he was in a number of TV shows, miniseries, and movies. With Tom as the face of the Coca-Cola brand, the company saw a rise in sales. Tom was then sought after by many companies, and Salem Cigarettes and Revlon both hired him to be the face of their brands. In 1971, he was in an ad for Rite Aid deodorant as well. His next role was in an ad for the Aperitif Dubonnet with Farrah Fawcett the next year in 1972, and another one for the toothpaste brand close up in 1977. As a big fan of the outdoors, Tom was interested in shooting and gathering guns. His love in Western movies led him to play lead male cowboy roles, starting with Orrin Sackett, a frontier marshal and cowboy, in the 1979 movie. He went on to play other lead male cowboy roles in Western movies, such as The Sacketts, opposite Sam Elliott and Jeff Osterhage, and Western icons Glenn Ford and Ben Johnson, who were in the movie Concrete Cowboys with Jerry Reed that same year. Are there any other clothes that Selleck could wear besides a cowboy hat after his Western roles? Leave the West behind. The most important thing that changed Tom's life was getting the lead part of Thomas Magnum in the hit TV show Magnum P.I. In 1980, what he didn't expect was that his success came at a cost. The people who ran the show were determined to keep Tom on, so they wouldn't let him do other work or parts. So when Harrison Ford was offered the part of Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark, he turned it down. Something did happen between these events, though. The filming of the movie was pushed back by 6 months because of a writer's strike. This meant that Tom would have had the chance to play Indiana Jones. He wasn't free to play other parts, though. Because he had signed an exclusive deal with the show's makers, he had to do this. It was the best thing that ever happened to me that I made a deal with Magnum. People told me I had to get into a car, hit a brick wall, get hurt, and then get out of Magnum and do Raiders. I'm happy that I lived up to my promise. I got to look my mom and dad in the eye, I told Magnum. We don't do that, he said. That's not too bad, right? He said it in a talk. What would have happened if Tom Selleck had played Indiana Jones? That being said, this shouldn't be a big deal since Magnum P.I. was a huge hit and his role in the movie made him stand out. Before Tom's life changed because of Magnum, he had already shot 6 pilot episodes for different TV shows that either did not get picked or got made into a full series. But Magnum had the golden ticket when he came. The plot showed Tom's personality as a former U.S. He was a Navy SEAL officer who had been in the Vietnam War. He chose to quit the Navy after the war and become a private investigator in Hawaii, where he probably solved crimes and won over the locals with his mustache, as well as his sleek Ferrari 308 GTS. The show was a huge hit. It ran for 8 seasons and 163 episodes. People still watched it a lot after it finished in 1988. Tom had a great start to 1990 with the Australian Western Quigley Down Under, in which he played a tough American sharpshooter. He thought this was his all-time favorite movie. Tom didn't end there. He also played a nice but weird uncle in The 3 Men and a Little Lady, another movie he was in. He even pushed himself when he took on the difficult role of Christopher Columbus in The Discovery. This showed that he was a very skilled and adaptable actor. Then there was an N-Out, a love comedy where Tom played a gay character for the first time. This was a big moment in his acting career. You had to be very brave to pull this off, as artists usually get typecast right after doing a good job in a movie. As he played Peter Malloy, he put on his warm coat. Later in the 1990s, Tom chose to join the cast of Friends, which was a TV show at the time. He played Monica Geller's older, more sophisticated boyfriend, Richard Burke. Richard was an eye doctor who had been separated and was friends with Monica's parents, so they chose to tell her parents nothing about their relationship. However, this did not last as the couple broke up because Richard did not want to have children. Many people didn't like Tom's choice to switch from writing movie scripts to writing TV shows, and his job counselors thought it was a mistake. But Tom got things done. He kept shooting without stopping, and was nominated for an Emmy Award in 2000 for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Comedy Series. AT's Future You Will ad campaign came to life in 1993 with Tom's famous voice. This ad made us think about how technology would change our lives, and Tom's voice made it more interesting and thought-provoking. It even made people very curious about what new products AT was going to release. After a few years, Tom chose to change careers again. He became the host of the TLC show The Practical Guide to the Universe, where he talked about the amazing things in space, from planets and stars to galaxies beyond. When Tom decided to make his big screen comeback again in 1998, he took on the lead part in the CBS sitcom The Closer on Primetime TV. He played Jack McLaren, a charismatic and famous public relations executive who runs a brand new marketing firm. There were a few other skilled actors around him, such as Ed Asner, David Krumholtz, and Penelope Ann Miller. Even though it was the first one after Tom played Magnum P.I, they had high plans for it. However, it didn't do well. The Closer had trouble getting going because of low ratings, and after 10 episodes, it was sadly canceled. Tom's cowboy hat was still on tight as he was cast in two important parts. The 2001 TNT movie Crossfire Trail, which was based on Louis L'Amour's book of the same name, and the 2003 movie motion picture Monty Walsh. Once more, Tom was a versatile actor who could play many different parts. Back in 2001, he played the lead part of Murray in a new production of Herb Gardner's comedic play A Thousand Clouds. Before they chose to open the show at the Longacre Theater, they were going to go on a 4-month tour of North Carolina, Chicago, and Boston to get the word out about the show. But this didn't last long because reviewers said Tom Selleck's performance was too similar to Jason Robards, who had played Murray in the 1960s and won awards for both her stage and movie roles. This meant that the show had to end. In a 2012 campaign ad for Coldwell Bankers, an American real estate franchise owned by Anywhere Real Estate, Tom Selleck talked about how great it is to own a house. He urged people to find their dream homes by showing off the charming personality he had always had. Tom Selleck's work with Coldwell Banker showed how important it is to find a place where you feel like you fit and can call your own. Tom Selleck was able to help people understand how important it is to own a home and how it shapes our lives through this ad. In 2016, Tom Selleck also worked with the American Advisors Group AG to help people get reverse mortgages to get the value of their homes back. His calm and reassuring demeanor made it easy for him to persuade people, and he stressed how important it was to do research and get help from experts. Tom Selleck worked with AG to help people deal with the problems of reverse mortgages and get the most out of the money they had saved. Fans were even more surprised when Tom Selleck performed his first album. Their performance was recorded live in 2001 during their run of A Thousand Clowns. This wonderful performance showed off Tom Selleck's hidden ability and made us remember that he wasn't really a man. He was a man with many interests and skills who was always excited to try new things. Is there any part that Tom Selleck hasn't done well? For his next part, General Dwight D. Eisenhower, Tom Selleck took on a new challenge in 2004 in the T-Vike ads for Countdown to D-Day. A lot of planning, politics, and building up went into making the movie The Invasion of Normandy, which came out in June 1944. There were cheers for Tom Selleck because he played Eisenhower so calmly and naturally, just like Eisenhower did in real life. After 6 years, Tom Selleck played Mr. Kornfeld in the movie that came out in 2010. Tom Selleck has also played the famous transplanted police officer Jesse Stone in a popular TV show based on the best-selling books by Robert B. Parker since then. After 9 movies in the series, he brought the character to life and became a director to make sure the series would continue. The most current movie in the series, Jesse Stone Thin Ice, came out in 2015. It had a different plot than the book. He also joined the group of the NBC drama Las Vegas for the start of its 5th season, playing the important part of a J. Cooper, who is now the owner of the Montecito Casino and takes over for James Caan, who quit the show in the same episode. Even though Tom Selleck had played Thomas Magnum in Magnum P.I. Before this part, the Blue Blood story on Blue Bloods in 2010 was his longest-running role to that point. There is an American police show on CBS called Blue Bloods that Tom Selleck has played since 2010. The title came from the idea of nobility in relation to the parts the Reagan family played in New York's criminal justice system, as well as a family who worked as police officers their whole lives. In the show, Frank has a hard time balancing his love for his family, who all work in law enforcement, with his desire to make the city a better place. The show began on September 24, 2010, and is now in its last season. For example, before Frank Reagan took over, his father held the same job. It looked like law enforcement was in the family. Frank's children were like their dad. The oldest son is an agent for the New York Police Department. Jamie is the younger son. He became an NYPD sergeant after graduating from Harvard, and Erin, Frank's daughter, who works hard as an assistant district attorney in New York City. As the movie moves from one scene to the next, the terrible tragedy that happened to the family serves as its heart. As the FBI looks into a group of crooked NYPD cops called the Blue Templar, their second son Joe is brutally killed. Frank counted on his trusted co-workers, such as Garrett Moore, Abigail Baker, and Sidney Gormley, to run the department. Each had their own support network that helped them do their job. On the other hand, Danny and Maria Baez worked together to solve cases. Jamie found a reliable partner in Officer Eddie Janko, who is his partner as the beat cop. Aaron also worked with Detective Anthony Abetamarco, an investigator in the DA's office, to build strong cases. The show showed the ups and downs that members of the Reagan family and their coworkers went through as they did their jobs. Tom Selleck was hesitant at first to take on the lead part in Blue Bloods because he thought it would take away from his show about Jesse Stone. He was sure, though, that the pilot story was very different from the other scripts that were being written. It was supposed to be a 4-week test run on Wednesdays at 10 p.m., starting on January 19, 2011, when the show first played. The company made a very smart choice by doing this to see how people felt about the movie. But in February 2011, just a few weeks later, Blue Bloods went back to its old Friday night time slot. This made room for the new show Criminal Minds Suspect Behavior to take over the Wednesday night spot. Still, after the initial scheduling chaos, Blue Bloods started to make ground and became a regular part of CBS's schedule. This was because of Tom Selleck's impact and the show's magical plots. In season 1 of Blue Bloods, the show's original executive director, Leonard Goldberg, said that he got the idea for the show from a painting by Norman Rockwell called Freedom from Want. He also came up with a new way to mix police drama and family life. He imagined a show that would show how different people interacted with each other and focus on the vulnerable moments and quiet, soft connections that showed how they really felt about each other. Goldberg said at the opening that the show is about the times when these people are together. You'll remember the little things that happened between the players. In an interview, Tom Selleck, who plays the lead role on the show, agreed with Leonard that Blue Bloods wasn't like other shows. Nina Tassler told him once when she was a CBS official, "We don't use the P word around your show." In the end, Tom Selleck gave the part of the strong and tolerant Frank Reagan a new level of meaning in life. What made Blue Bloods different from other crime dramas was how it built a complex plot around its characters' successes and mistakes as a family. This was shown more than once, especially when the Reagan family was sad or lost someone close to them. Henry, the family's father, lost his beloved wife Betty. Frank, the son, lost his wife Mary and their beloved son Joe during the probe. It was a rough split for Frank's daughter Erin, who is a tough and smart prosecutor. She was left with her daughter Nikki, who thought she was ready to live on her own in San Francisco. Danny was Frank's older son. He was sad because his wife Linda had died in a chopper accident. Linda was a nurse. Danny wasn't a bad dad because he loved and cared for his two sons, Jack and Sean, even though it was hard for him to balance his work obligations with being a full-time dad to them. On the other hand, Jamie, the youngest Reagan sibling, was happy with his partner Eddie Janko. They told each other they loved each other in season 7, got engaged in season 8, and got married in season 9. However, the season 10 finale has a surprise ending. Joe, Frank's late son, had a child with a woman named Joe Hill. The woman is a detective who is 24 years old, and no one in the family has ever met her. This amazing find changes the Reagans' lives, which means they can now include Joe Hill in their family. In this last season of the show, how do the events change things for the Reagan family? Blue Bloods is over. On February 14, 2024, Gregory Jabra said that the Blue Blood season might go on until the spring of 2025, and that the show wants to make more than 300 episodes. People were glad to hear that the show would still happen. Fans quickly organized and rallied to support the show. What they did was use the phrase "cancel the cancellation" on social media, putting up signs, writing letters, and drawing petitions on the page. Mark Wahlberg said the same thing in an interview with Entertainment Tonight in February 2024 that inspired their rallying cry. "Our fans want us to keep going. The actors want to keep going. Get rid of the cancellation." Tom Selleck was sure of himself when he talked to CBS News about the start of filming the second half of season 14 in May 2024. He said, "I think CBS will wake up one day and realize the whole cast wants to be back. As for when they decide to end it, I don't know." He stayed positive in the chat with Entertainment Tonight. "There is hope for me because everyone on the show wants to do it." Prior to that, in February 2024, Donnie Wahlberg made a suggestion on the Kelly Clarkson show that the story of the Reagan family might go on. He said that there might be other ways for the show to live and continue its run. As soon as the dust cleared from the failed merger between Paramount Global and Skydance Media in June 2024, insiders in the industry began making guesses about what the company would do next. A story in Deadline Hollywood said that the main cast, led by Tom Selleck, seems very eager to make sure that the show doesn't end with this season. The article also said that Blue Bloods may not be the most popular show, but it has a history of making a lot of money for the company. As the last scenes of season 14 were filmed in June 2024, Donnie Wahlberg thought back on the good and bad times, including how the pandemic got in the way and how much he wanted more. "We will have more time to get together and make something magical, God willing." He spoke from the bottom of his heart. I hope that can happen some way. I'm not going to give up. He let out his anger on Instagram, confirming the truth of the show's fan base. This is a show that I know so many of us and so many of you wish could continue, he wrote. Which expressed the desire of not only the cast and crew in July 2024. Wahlberg tried to get New Kids on the Block fans to come back by giving them hints about a follow-up to this series. Marisa Ramirez also talked to Latin American news outlets and said she had mixed feelings. She said that filming the last episodes of season 14 was sad, but she and the rest of the cast and team wanted more. She admitted, "We want to keep going, we want more." She said she would be married to Maria Baez for another 15 years. Later, the show got a $79 million tax return for everything it did to make seasons 4 through 7. This kind treatment made it possible for the series to keep showing how the city's landscape and people are always changing. It also helped the city's economy by bringing in money from the project. The tax breaks showed that the show was valuable to New York and recognized its part in the growth of the state's film and TV production industry. With this kind of money, the Reagan family's stories could go even further. Not only would they be entertaining, but they would also show what kind of people live in the town. That tough look comes from Tom Selleck, who is more than just the action figure we see in movies. He has made a name for himself in Hollywood that not many people can beat. In the end, Tom Selleck is still one of the coolest actors in Hollywood movies, and no one wants that to change. Do you agree? Post your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like the movie.